If you're a maintenance supervisor at a manufacturing facility and your machinery isn't working right, Grainger knows you need to understand what's wrong as soon as possible. So when a conveyor motor falters, Grainger offers diagnostic tools like calibration kits and multimeters to help you identify and fix the problem. With Grainger, you can be confident you have everything you need to keep your facility running smoothly. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
The Dick Morris Show. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
That song was the key in the emancipation of slaves worldwide. The guy who wrote it, John Newton, was a captain of a slave ship. And after 20 or 30 years of doing that, he discovered God and he converted. And he helped lead the anti-slavery movement in Britain that resulted in the abolition of slavery in the British Empire.
And I thought it was appropriate for today's memorial of Charlie Kirk. You know, I'm not going to play it every, opening, but I thought one more time, it was important.
This is the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. The last week has seen a major change in the polling in the United States. Trump's poll numbers have spiked. They've gone up 10 points in this week. His approval went from 48 to 51 disapprove, 51 disapprove, 48 approve. And now it's 53 approve, 46 disapprove. So he went from minus 3 points to plus 7 points, according to the Rasmussen Report's daily tracking poll. Now, daily tracking polls are a good way to get an ulcer, and they absolutely can do more to ruin a day or a week or a month than anything else.
Well, hold on a second. Hanging out with you is a good way for me to get an ulcer. To talk about the planes, and I forget, we'll talk about that later.
So Trump's net approval went up 10 points. From a negative of 3 to a positive 7. As has been the case with Trump throughout his political career, the president engenders strong feelings on both sides of the spectrum. 34% strongly approve of Trump's performance, 37% strongly disapprove. But one of the biggest trends in the data is that there is an emerging divide between millennials, who are those over the age of 25, and Gen Z, who are under the age of 25. That's a trend Doug and I first noticed when we did polling of young people during the campaign with the assistance of John Jordan, a California political analyst.
Brilliant guy.
We found that millennials were heavily conditioned by their parents and by their history, and they tended to be a little more liberal. But Gen Z, when the millennials aged and turned age 25, they began to sharply veer toward the Republican Party, probably because they began to work, they began to pay taxes, they began to have to worry about supporting a family. And now the data shows that Gen Z men are tending toward Republicans dramatically. And that's
now Gen Z is under 25?
Under 25.
I've got to make sure we know
the
that.
Youngest voters.
Got it.
And ultimately the most important, because they're the people who will become the majority soon. According to Decision Desk at Rasmussen, Gen Z appears to be charting a different political course than millennials, and multiple indicators point to substantial Republican gains among Gen Z.
Why do you think that, Dick?
In particular, the report noted that Democratic registration among young men had shrunk compared to young women. It's because their lives change at age 25. You're coming off of college and the indoctrination in college. And
right.
The influence of the professors.
And the college didn't tell you that they're going to pull out a lot of money out of your paycheck.
Yeah, and then
when
all
you
of
get
a
a
sudden
good job.
You wake up and you find this huge discrepancy in your paycheck. You find that you don't have enough money to pay for an apartment or a house. that you have to support your family, and if you're a man, you have
and
to
the
support your
Democrats
family.
say, let's give free stuff to everyone, and you
Yeah.
start realizing that free stuff is coming out of my paycheck.
Right. But there's a cliff at age 25. And now that age, I guess, advances as time goes on. But the point is that there is a sharp delineation that happens when people leave college and they have to really support a family.
And they leave the home of their parents who are on the left.
Or they try to leave the home of their parents, and they can't.
And they can't.
Because they can't afford it.
But their parents want them to be on the left side, and they're saying, wait a minute,
Right.
the money's coming out of my paycheck. Why am I listening to these people?
Well, some experts note that registration trends don't take into account changing attitudes among demographics between elections. The report is nonetheless providing further warning signs for Democrats as Gen Z men increasingly age into the voting electorate. The analysis indicated that Democrats have lost ground among young voters in voter registration. This is important. Democratic registration among young white men, which has historically been at 49%, has fallen to 29%.
Wow.
A 20-point gap.
How long is this? A year or 10 years?
Well, the historic 49 is over many years, over 5 or 10 years, but the drop to 29 is very recent. It's
Really?
only since Trump took office.
Wow. You mean the first time he took office?
No, between now.
Now?
Yeah.
Really?
And
That's half. I was
yeah.
going to say 29. What did you say? 49?
49 to 29. There have been modest losses among non-white women. Democrats had 80% of them. Now it's 75. And 65% of young minority women usually are Democrat. Now that's down to 54. So,
Usually women don't switch over to the Republican side so often, do they?
well,
Is it-
not as much. First of all, they, in many cases, do not support a family. They don't feel the burden of buying a home as much.
Oh, you're going to get letters on this, boy. Go on.
Well, the
It's
point-
true, though. This
yeah.
is truth. That's
The
it.
point is that young white men are the main shifters. The other thing is that, and this is a point that Roxana made, like, quoting Charlie Kirk, that segment you read me the other day about Charlie Kirk celebrating the maleness in Trump,
Yes.
and pointing out that whatever you think of Trump, there's nothing about him that's feminine.
Right.
And the idea of Trump as being take charge, opposing his enemies, taking bold and aggressive action is very male, and it's been a key element. During the campaign of 24, one of the key moves that we made was Republicans had historically confronted the gender gap by trying to increase Republican vote share among women. We in the Trump campaign did the opposite. We confronted the gender gap by building Trump support among young white men. And part of that was Hulk Hogan. Part of it was at the other end of the spectrum, the high-tech community.
Right.
And the point was that we caught up among men and we passed women. And Trump became increasingly the candidate of young white men.
You know what? You're making me think right now about how the left hates them because they weren't trying to feminize all them men anyway.
Right.
So they really, I'm just thinking of this now. Like,
Right.
you know, and he's a New York tough guy. You know, I talk to Trump all the time when I used to see him a lot. And him and I, we just went at it like guys. You know, hey, F this guy. What about this other guy?
Right.
Like people, the Secret Service used to look at me like, I can't believe he's talking to the
Now it's
president.
F
like
this guy. Now he doesn't say that. He just
fund
fires
this guy.
him.
No, fund this guy. No.
Yeah.
Go on.
Okay, now Jimmy Kimmel is taking it on the chin.
ABC announced on September 17th that it will indefinitely stop airing Jimmy Kimmel not live, Jimmy Kimmel dead, after the host of the show made remarks about conservative commentator Charlie Kirk's assassination, excuse me, that have drawn criticism from Brendan Carr, the head of the Federal Communications Commission.
During a recent show, Kimmel delivered a controversial monologue about Kirk's killing, saying we hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize the kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
He was referring to this piece of garbage, the shooter involved, and I won't say his name. I crossed that out, Dick. Sorry. The shooter involved in Kirk's assassination on September 10th in Utah. Ahead of ABC's announcement, Nexstar Media Group, Inc., said that it will stop airing the show on its 32 ABC-affiliated stations.
Kimmel's comments about the death of Kirk are offensive and insensitive at a critical time in our national political discourse. In an interview on September 17th with conservative commentator Benny Johnson, Carr, the head of the FCC, described Kimmel's monologue as an effort to play into the narrative that this was somehow a MAGA or Republican-motivated person. What people don't understand is that the broadcasters have a license granted to us at the Federal Communications Commission, and that comes with an obligation to operate in the public interest.
Carr said his agency has a strong case to pursue against actions against Kimmel's ABC and parent company, Disney, for spreading politically motivated misinformation. I think you could certainly see a path forward for Kimmel's suspension over this, he said. The FCC could make a strong argument that is sort of an intentional effort to mislead the American people about the very core fundamental fact, a very important matter. He suggested that broadcasters who aired Kimmel's live show could face investigation, fines, or license revocation.
This is really part of a reign of terror that Trump has induced among his media opponents.
But 1 second. We had a talk earlier, and what I've been seeing today and yesterday quite a bit is it's really the advertising that have a lot to do with it. You said that it has somewhat the Trump, that he's kind of...
Well, I think there are
FCC.
two things. I think you're right. The advertisers are getting skittish, and they're afraid of negatives like that.
Yeah.
But it's all as a result of Trump and the FCC pressure. The FCC controls their licenses. They can literally put these networks off the air, and the appeal from it would be very difficult.
And it's about time that this happens anyway, because it's just ridiculous, some of the things they say.
Right.
So it's time.
So it's a big change that I think is important. Now, Trump has been increasingly focusing on the crime issue and violence. And the increase in his ratings that I talked about a minute ago, in part because of that. Not because of Trump's aggressive actions, but because of Democrats' stupid response. Democrats have become crime apologists, arguing for defunding the police, allying with disruptive protesters, releasing criminals into American cities, and attempting to block Trump's deportations of illegals. Americans agree with the president's characterization of major cities as overtaken by violent gangs and criminals.
Well, you got Mandami wants to defund the police, and Netanyahu he wants to have arrested if he comes to New York. Well, so this plays right into that.
Yeah.
Why we need Curtis Sliwa.
In effect, what Trump is doing is by putting the crime issue out there and highlighting the violence that killed Charlie Kirk. He's creating a political issue that he knows the Democrats will screw up over. He knows that they're going to take the wrong position. So by putting the issue out there as a positive, he lets the Democrats kill themselves.
But, we always debate this, you and I, all the time. I don't believe he thinks that way, like he's putting it out there so the Democrats, fall over themselves.
No,
I think he's just trying to make things right.
Yeah, but
and
I
it's
think,
working in that
I think
direction.
It's instinctive with him,
Right? Yes,
to do that.
But I don't think that's his. I don't think he wakes up and says, "How do I make the Democrats look bad?" I think he just makes himself look right with crime and everything, and it makes them look bad.
Well, maybe.
Yeah.
I wake up like that, but maybe he
Well,
does too.
that's you, the pollster.
This is particularly true of Americans living in high crime regions themselves, with a plurality of voters agreeing with the president's characterization in major cities like Washington, D.C., Baltimore, and Chicago, and now Memphis, as being overtaken by violence and criminal behavior. A September 9th survey showed that by 11 points, 54 to 43, they agree with Trump's characterization of cities as high crime, and a full 22% say Trump's characterization is extremely accurate. Urban voters agree with Trump's characterization of cities by 8 points, and swing voters also agree. But it isn't so much what Trump is saying, it's what the Democrats are saying against him.
Right.
And by raising the issue, Trump tempts the Democrats to take positions that ultimately kill them.
It's like a win-win.
Yeah, and it's a little bit like Charlie Kirk's method of speaking.
Listen,
You throw something out there and you let the other side screw itself up.
we have a hard break. And anyway, real fast, to call in number, 800-848-9222. 848-9222 when we get back.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Dick, I saw this morning that Trump urges his Justice Department to go after LaShysta James and Adam Schiff for brains. We can't delay any longer. It's killing
For
our...
the uninitiated, translate those into English, the names. Letitia James, the Attorney General.
LaShysta James.
The Attorney General of New York State.
And Adam Schiff.
The Senator
brains.
from California. Yeah, go ahead.
And Trump said, we can't delay any longer. It's killing our reputation and credibility. Basically, he's telling his Justice Department, let's go.
Telling Bondi, get with it.
So many people dying to see this happen, on our side. So I think this is it. Anyway, so he also labels Antifa as a terrorist group. Free speech alarm grows as Trump prepares to target liberal groups over the Kirk rhetoric. The Justice Department quietly removed from its website a study showing far-right extremists were responsible for the bulk of ideologically motivated deaths, a move that comes as the GOP seeks to back claims from President Trump that the radical left poses a greater danger than the right wing.
I think the discrepancy here is time. It is true that in the past, the Ku Klux Klan and the racist right posed more
I thought
of
the
a
Klan was
danger.
on the left.
No,
No?
Klan is on the right. Klan is the right, and his. I mean, we don't like it, but it's
I know,
conservative.
it's kind of kidding.
But but I think that that in the past the violence was more right wing. Since Trump
But you're
took
talking about the
office,
60s, the 50s, 60s, and early 70s, right?
yeah. But since Trump took office, and the movement he engendered began to engulf the country, the left has responded increasingly with violence because they're
Really?
losing the argument,
Right.
and they're not winning the elections,
And that's the only way they
and
can.
their supporters are leaving them.
Sure.
That's,
Look at the college kids with Charlie Kirk.
yeah.
They're all going that direction.
That's key.
This is a movement.
One of the key reasons why there are assassinations is that when political movements lose their support among their extreme supporters, the only solution they have
It's violence.
is kill the guy that's saying it.
Yeah. It's just like, even on the street, I try to stay away from this kind of argument because someone will come up to me, You can't win. And the minute I come up with something that's a good fact about, doesn't matter what it is, Trump or Charlie, oh, you're a racist or you're a bigot or and they call me something. And years ago when that used to bother me, I was like, I'm not a racist, don't you dare. I'm a New Yorker, right? A Bronx, Yonkers boy. I am not a racist. I know what it's all about. And when they said that to me 10, 20 years ago, I am not. Now I go, good, yeah, whatever you want. You're watering it down. Anyway, Mandami, all right? He's going to arrest Netanyahu. He has vowed to arrest Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu should he step foot in New York City, citing the authority of the International Criminal Court, a body the United States does not even recognize. Mandami has pledged to defund the police, the New York City police, for placing trained officers with social workers to manage unrest. It's difficult to overstate how reckless this would be in practice when the next round of pro-Hamas demonstrations paralyze Times Square or overwhelms Columbia's campus. There will be no robust police presence to ensure order. Instead, New Yorkers will be told, this is great, to trust in community dialogue overseen by a cadre of leftist social workers as anti-Semitic chants fill the air. Okay, for Jewish New Yorkers, the largest Jewish community outside Israel, the implications are stark. Already facing record levels of anti-Semitic incidents, they would find themselves living in a city led by a mayor who sympathizes with their tormentors, weakens their protectors, and provides tactic license for hostility and flood. So what are you going to do? You're going to send some people in to say, oh, breathe deep and look at the flower. What do they do? I don't know what they do.
But more
meditate.
Importantly, he's going to arrest Netanyahu.
Oh, my God. I love that.
He's not going to let him come to New York. And the planes from Israel land in New York. And this won't occur in Washington, but Mamdani will assert his authority as mayor to arrest Netanyahu.
Any Jewish people that are on the left that vote for Democrats, you better think about this right now, that what you're doing.
Yeah.
Your family members are going to come in and they're going to get arrested too. And
just remember that Adolf Hitler defined Jews as being somebody whose grandparents, one of whose grandparents was Jewish. You just needed to be 1/8 Jewish to earn the right to have the Gestapo and the concentration camps going after you.
It's amazing that we still have this evil floating around us, not floating around, bumping into us every day. And people still vote for a guy like this. They would still do that.
Doug and I worked with John McLaughlin.
Yeah, he's great.
On doing a poll about what's going on with Jews in New York.
Yes.
And what McLaughlin did, I thought, was very skillful in the poll. First, he asked people, do you have Jewish ancestors? And 21% of the sample in New York City said, yes, I do. Then later,
not a Jewish sample, full sample.
Full sample.
Got it.
Then later on in the poll, minutes later, he said, what is your religious identification? And only 8% said Jewish, whereas 21% said that their family had been Jewish. And the difference between those two is really the erosion of Judaism in the United States, and in particular in New York.
And why is that? And I know we know, but I want you to tell the audience.
Well, I think it's several things, but I think the big thing is that the rabbinic community has done a very bad job of proselytizing. Catholics are all over you to convert. Jews won't allow you to convert.
Plus, as you said to me last week, a couple of weeks ago, just like our church is written in Latin and it went right to English, English speaking.
Whereas
the
Jews are still doing their prayers in Hebrew.
So young kids are going, I don't understand this, and then go in a corner.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that there's been a sort of arrogance among the Jewish leadership, the rabbis, that they don't have, we're the true historic faith, and we don't have to spend time trying to accommodate new converts.
Yes, you do. And you are the historic faith. Absolutely.
And you see the enormous discrepancy between those who say that they believe in Judaism and those who come from Jewish families.
Right. Let's go to Sandra right now. This is perfect for Sandra. Hi, Sandra.
Oh, good afternoon, Dick and Doug. Mandami, I think I heard this morning, it said on WABC that they are going to look into funds that he's getting out of the country. I know he's getting it from many states. I know that Elizabeth Simon, she's a heiress hedge fund raiser. She's giving him a lot of money, and she stands for the LGBTQ rights and all that stuff. So I did also read that Bloomberg and Ackerman, they're stepping on the gas now because they want Cuomo to win. Look, I really want Curtis to win. I wish they could put that money towards Curtis, but anybody but Mandani. That's how I feel. So my question is, do you think it's true that maybe he is getting money from out of the country? And if so, doesn't that disqualify him?
Where do you see that coming from? We don't know.
Well, no news stories about that, but yeah, I mean, I think the national liberal movement and the international movement has done everything they can to let New York go socialist. And Bernie Sanders and his people are hoping that happens, and it'll have implications far beyond New York City. The important thing to remember about Mandami is that if he wins, there will be no way he can govern New York, because the government of the city will be taken over by bondholders who will say, I'm not going to lend New York money as long as this guy's in charge.
Really?
When he says that I'm going to not let there be rent increases, okay, nobody's going to pay property taxes.
And the owners of the buildings.
Why should I lend New York money?
Or the owners of the buildings are going to take off too.
Yeah, exactly. And
New York is the capital of capitalism, basically.
Yeah.
And you're going to put this guy in.
Yeah. But the kids that were supporting him like that, the important point is that they won't be able to govern. New York City exists as a creature of New York State. If Hochul and the legislature decree it, New York City government goes away. And in 1975, that happened.
She won't do that.
Well, but
maybe Stefanik or Lawler come in. They'll do it.
The threats exist there.
Listen,
they could do it.
She endorsed this man dummy guy the other day, and he didn't endorse her. That was beautiful. I didn't see the interview. They asked him, so what do you think of her? Oh, that's great. What are you endorsing her? He kind of was like, I don't know.
Yeah, right.
That's great.
Now, Robert Kennedy, the Secretary of HHS, Health and Human Services, has really...
Thank you, Sandra.
I'm sorry, Sandra. Thank you. Has really stepped into his own now and become a key figure in the administration. He's really cracking down on vaccines and demanding that they prove that they're not harmful, and then demanding that they prove that they're necessary, particularly for children, before he requires children to have the exams. Donald Trump, who's bought buildings, purchased airplanes, and won the White House twice in his long career, but one of his most valued acquisitions is the 71-year-old former Democrat now serving in his cabinet.
That's good.
I have a Kennedy, Trump bragged to donors earlier this year, a reference to Robert F. Kennedy Jr., according to two people familiar with the conversation. The two men, once rivals for the presidency, have forged a unique relationship in Trump's Washington, with the White House granting Kennedy remarkable leeway to pursue his own agenda of overhauling the nation's health system.
We met Kennedy at the Metaxas event. And he was like, I'm not going to get into that cabinet. I'm not doing anything. Remember how he said it? You called Trump that night or the next night.
Yeah. Well, I'm a little bit of a marriage broker. And
I know.
I've been urging Trump and Kennedy to get together. The two men, once rivals for the presidency, formed a unique relationship in Trump's Washington, with the White House granting Kennedy considerable leeway. In his first 6 months, Kennedy used that power to remake the agencies responsible for overseeing food, drugs, and other medical products that touch millions of Americans' daily lives. He's worked to limit access to vaccines and promoted debunked health theories with the near daily condemnation from public health officials. He's advancing some of the most controversial ideas, pushing the link between autism and vaccinations.
Trump, however, stood by Kennedy, brushing aside criticisms from dozens of Democratic lawmakers and a smattering of GOP officials, some of whom have privately questioned whether Kennedy's hard-line views on vaccines and other public health moves could hurt Republicans in the midterms. Trump advisors countered that Kennedy's appeal to independent voters could bolster the party as it did last year, and argue that his chances to health agencies are overdue. Secretary Kennedy has been a crown jewel of this administration. That's what Stephen Miller said. He's working tirelessly to improve public health for all Americans and to deal with the drivers of the chronic health crisis in this country. So I think he's staying. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah. And
Stephen Miller is brilliant, too.
He is, but it was so important that Trump appoint Kennedy, and now that he's standing by him as he's getting into controversy,
Right.
Because it really anchors his support among progressives.
Trump does what's right and wrong. He does what's right on the right and wrong situation. He doesn't worry about the political aspect. Maybe when he picks somebody, but when he's in the deal, he's in the deal. He doesn't care where it goes until he gets it done properly and right, like with Kennedy. That's what I believe. Why are you looking at me like that?
Because I make a living telling him he's wrong. I make a living telling him, watch about this, be careful about
No, but
this.
it's careful how you say he's wrong. You
Yeah.
go, Mr. President, that's nice, but maybe there's something else you
that's
could
right.
look at.
That's right.
Anyway, we got a break, and when we come back, what are we doing? Trump gets power to name the D.C. judges. That's great. Thank you.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show
Entertaining and informative.
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
What show is this, Dick Morris?
Welcome to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group.
Why don't we
We'll take some calls, yeah.
How about Joe from Staten Island? Hey, Joe.
How you doing?
Good. How you doing?
All right. Thank you for taking my call.
Absolutely.
I just have a couple of points I'd like to make as a retired police officer that went to many demonstrations.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing is, I noticed there's no college unrest while the mayoral election moves forward. I think they're trying to protect Mandani Dikami.
Yeah, that could be. Or it could be that Trump has scared the hell out of the campuses, and they're no longer letting the students demonstrate. But when he pulled their funding for research, he absolutely hit those colleges where they live,
In the wallet.
and he endangered their endowments. So I think that's got more to do with it than that.
Interesting.
Yeah, what else you got?
Thanks, Joe. And then we have Elaine from Wayne.
Hey, Elaine.
From Wayne. Hi, Elaine from Wayne, New Jersey. Elaine.
Let's go to Nancy from Florida.
All right, Nancy from Florida. Hi, Nancy.
Good afternoon, Mr. Morris and Doug. Thank you so much. First of all, I just want to say I appreciate you so very much. I love this show, and I look forward to it.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Nancy.
Where are you from in
Thank
Florida?
Stuart, Florida.
Sure.
Okay, yeah.
Know the
good.
airport.
Yeah, listen, I don't know if you can hear it, but I'm from Brooklyn. I just moved here a year ago.
We're
Yeah.
in Florida,
Because
too,
I
and we're
ran
from
out.
Manhattan.
Yeah. I like your southern drawl. Nancy.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so the first thing I want to point out, I know, Mr. Morris, you have our president's ear every so often. I've always voted for President Trump. I love everything he's doing. Basically, I see everything wonderful, and I see a bright future. But I have to say, when you get to talk to him, let him know, down here, we're not feeling it. And when I say down here, I mean we're all not invited to the party. There are people who don't have the benefit of investments, don't have the benefit of a husband, don't have the benefit of two incomes.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think the other thing that is important that I've been stressing to him is how the high interest rates are really hurting people throughout the country. And that's why he's been pressing Powell to lower them, and now they're beginning to come down.
But I want to keep going, Nancy. Where you're going with that? Continue.
Well, the thing is, I know things are looking great for a lot of people, and I'm so proud of our president and our first lady and our cabinet, our amazing cabinet. However, we're still not feeling it, and it's really, we're growing weary, and there are millions of us.
Yeah.
And it's not a good thing. It's not right. There are a lot of things still with Medicare. There are a lot of things that have to be straightened out, and there has to be a lot more fairness. And I think that the higher people get up in the clouds, sometimes it just gets harder and harder to see us. And I'm not crying. I love my country, and I've always had the benefit of a job, and I can just go on and on.
Yep.
But
well, I think things are going to improve rather quickly.
Yes.
Bear in mind that Trump's big tax cut that passed in that big, beautiful bill only is taking effect now. And I think it's going to be a little while before it works its way through. But I do believe that it is working its way through. And I think that you'll see, not just in the stats, but in your daily life. But let me ask you this. Don't you notice that prices have stopped going up very much?
Nancy? Maybe she's off.
The eggs are definitely a lot better.
And gas?
Gas
has come down.
I don't know about coming down, but they've stopped going crazy. And you no longer go into a supermarket and have shell shock. I think that there's been 3-4 years of price increases to factor in. But I think in many sectors, they're making a lot of progress. So I think that's going to continue, but I appreciate your concern.
Thank you, Nancy.
I also appreciate your call.
Thank you. You know, Dick, I was the other day in, I think it was Pound Ridge, by right off of 684 and Route 22. I put gas in the car, and I wasn't empty. You know, it's a regular car. I don't know, 20. And all of a sudden, I see $14. No, I needed a lot more gas than that. It was $144. It was $7-something a gallon. Like I didn't look. I just put the nozzle in. I walked in.
Where did you?
At a mobile station in Pound Ridge on Route 172 and 22.
Wow.
I just wanted to tell everyone it was I said $140.
Yeah.
And I looked, it was $7 and change.
Good God.
I almost went inside and said, I said, just forget it. I just left.
So Trump has gotten new power in Washington, D.C. The House passed 2 D.C. crime bills this week that would give Trump the sole authority to nominate local judges and allow officers to pursue fleeing suspects. The current system where the president is restricted to nominating only those candidates put forward by the D.C. Judicial Nomination Commission inappropriately limits the president's authority, because the commission is, of course, with liberals. Mm-hmm. The first bill would lower the age in D.C. of a youth offender from 24 to 18 and require criminal sentencing to be at least as long as the mandatory minimums for adults. The second bill would lower the age at which children who are accused of certain violent crimes can be charged as adults from 16 to 14. Trump is really making D.C. the example of what other cities should do.
You know, this is a perfect example of him having Congress and Senate and doing stuff, you know, doing it now to pass that he could do this. You know what I mean?
That's right.
That's important. You know, he's being smart right now. That's maybe some other things aren't happening so quickly because he's doing stuff like this also.
Well, I think it's significant that with questions about how fast the economy is going to improve and with concerns about interest rates, Trump still had a 10-point gain in favorability and job approval. And I think that's because of
so many people have jobs.
Is using the crime issue.
Right.
And the Democrats misusing the crime issue. Trump is so skilled, he just throws the football into the other side and watches them fumble it and be intercepted.
Amazing. The bill came from the floor after Trump placed the Metropolitan Police Department under direct federal control and deployed the National Guard troops in the capital to reduce the crime. Alongside of the federalization of the D.C. police force, Comer announced his committee would investigate allegations that the Metropolitan Police leadership deliberately manipulated crime data. The committee is requesting documents, information, and transcribed interviews with the with the district commander, Michael Pullman, and the district commanders of all 7 patrol districts.
And one of the big reasons that crime is coming down and that Trump has been successful is what he's doing at the border. And the left decided that they would dress up immigrants as asylum seekers.
Yeah, so the asylum loophole is being closed because Biden's 10 million illegal migrants are losing their pleas for asylum and citizenship at record rates. More illegal migrants are being ordered home, and the backlog of 1.1 million pending asylum cases is being reduced.
What the left would do is they tell everybody who wants to get into the U.S. illegally, just say you're being persecuted.
Yeah,
just say that you want asylum, not that you want to live
here. And if you're
here.
being persecuted from some other country, well, now you're in Mexico, so you're not going to be persecuted there. Stay there.
Right.
So exactly. These courtroom gains complement the administration's policies of arresting more illegals on the street and of detaining all new illegal migrants at the U.S. border. Between explicit policy changes and implicit threats to get in line or get fired, judges on the whole seem to be following Trump's orders to deny, wrote Austin Kutcher. This is not an accident. This is a policy decision, he added. Good. Good for you, Mr. Trump.
Do we have time for one more? No, we're break.
We're going to break now.
Break. When we come back, a voice from the past. Harris memoir says that Buttigieg was too risky and that Shapiro was too power hungry, and that's why he didn't choose them for vice president.
Okay, when we get back.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group.
I'm in the middle sometimes.
Sometimes you're going to be in a trivia contest, and you're going to have to say, who did Harris consider for vice president before she chose Waltz? And you can find the answer in a new book that she's written called, I think, 109 Days or something.
You think she actually wrote it?
No. I'm surprised she read it.
She had to do the interview so she knew, so she would know what's in it.
No, that's talking points. In her memoir, she writes that she did not choose Buttigieg to be her vice president because he was too risky. She said that if Harris were a straight white man, Buttigieg would have been the ideal partner. She said, I had nagging concerns that of America to accept a black woman married to a Jewish man.
Oh, my God.
It's too big a risk.
The whole thing is just ridiculous.
It's like they got tied up into a pretzel.
They're like little,
trying to do identity politics.
Right, they're like little babies, you know what I mean?
And then the other thing was the way Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, who was considered the choice all the Democrats wanted. And the conventional wisdom among Democrats was that Harris would choose Shapiro, popular governor of Pennsylvania, who won significant numbers of votes even in the most conservative parts of Pennsylvania. But Harris infers that he seemed overly confident, this is how to blow a job interview, about his ability to clinch the job, and that the vibes in his critical interview with Harris were not good. Before he even made it through the door for the interview at the vice president's residence, Harris writes that Shapiro began asking her residence manager about how many bedrooms were in the house and wondered aloud about how the Smithsonian might work with him to lend him Pennsylvania art for the residents.
During the interview, Harris said she felt like he was trying to pin her down on exactly what his role would be as vice president, and mused that he would want to be in the room for every decision. She says she told him bluntly that was an unrealistic expectation, in part because a vice president is not a co-president. Well, she wasn't, that's for sure. She worried that he would be unable to settle for a role as number 2, and that would wear on their partnership. She told him that on every day she was president, she'd have 99 problems, and my VP can't be one of them. It's almost like when you're reading it earlier that, he should be a black woman or a Jewish guy or a gay guy. It's almost like, imagine if they were picking a sports team. Oh, I want the black guy for this and the white guy for that and the Jewish guy for this. This team wouldn't know how to throw the ball after a while.
Basically, what Harris was saying
God
was, I'm going to do to them what they've been doing to me, which is to sideline me and not pay attention to me and not listen to me and not even let me into the damn room. And that's how they've treated me as vice president, and that is how I'm going to treat my vice president.
I'd love to see.
Shapiro is not happy with that.
I'd love to be the fly on the wall to see if Biden even knew, I don't want her coming in here, let's do this, because he was dumb enough or stupid enough to not have a...
Yeah, but he knew what it was like to be vice president and to be screwed over. Whenever you have a vice president who runs for president, you have to realize that they're damaged goods. They're psychologically roughed up.
Interesting.
They've been living under an administration. Remember when Lyndon Johnson was president and Hubert Humphrey was his vice president, and he would call Humphrey in and would say, I'd like to get to your advice on something. And Humphrey, who Johnson normally wouldn't talk to, was so happy to do that.
Right.
And Johnson knew that, and he'd invite him into the bedroom, and that was okay. And then Johnson would go to the bathroom, and he would leave the door open, and he would sit on the toilet. And while he was doing his business on the toilet, he'd keep talking to Humphrey.
Come on!
And he would. And he knew that was deliberately going to humiliate Humphrey. And he knew that Humphrey would have to put up with it.
I read that Johnson had a chair that it was higher than everyone else's chair in the White House, so he felt larger. Yeah. You said that damaged goods. It's almost like I went out with a psychotherapist sometime, and I realized she was the patient, and then she became a psychotherapist. A lot of psychotherapists that I've met, I don't go to them, first of all. I just met them. Were in therapy, and they probably figured I could make
but here you have
vice president.
You have the dynamic of choosing vice president, and you have to realize that anyone who's been vice president has been the object of derision and sidelining and ridicule and everything else.
Right.
And that they are damaged goods psychologically.
Right.
And they know that if they want to inflict revenge on their vice president.
Wow.
And that's what I think Harris is revealing in this book.
It's kind of like a prospect in a motorcycle club. The prospect, they tell a guy, 2:00 in the morning, they wake the guy up, make me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and the guy brings it to his house. Says, I don't want that. You know what I mean? So then when he becomes a made guy in the gang, he does it to that same thing.
I'll do unto them what they've done unto me.
Yeah, right. All right, so I think we should wait until the next week. A week ago. In case you missed the news last night, 4 major stock market indices: the S&P 500, NASDAQ 100, Dow Jones Industrial Average, and the Russell 2000 all set new record closing prices yesterday. Google AI tells us this alignment of the financial stars only happens rarely, about as often as a blue moon. So far, investors are giving 2 thumbs up for Trumponomics. That's the first time I'm hearing Trumponomics.
Well, usually you hear it when they start knocking it.
Yeah, right.
It's rare that you have a positive story about that.
So that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So once again, our guy is doing something that you can't deny. You just can't deny it. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk about 11, Dick? The climate standards as burdensome for the U.S. companies?
Yeah.
Chair blast the EU.
About time.
Yeah, about time. All right, when we get back.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group.
And real quick, the call-in numbers, 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. Just that last ad, the news thing that Liz was just talking about, Epstein survivors, they have their own list. That's interesting.
Right.
If they're real, it's credible. That's interesting. Anyway.
The European Union is basically stepping into the breach where the United States has deregulated stuff because of Trump's desire to get the economy moving. And what they're doing is they're imposing their environmental regulations that they impose on the EU and stop their companies from making money. And now they're trying to do it with everybody else. Trump appointed chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Paul Atkins, is fighting back against the EU bureaucrats promoting policies to fight global warming and forcing American firms to comply with burdensome European community rules. Atkins lectured a group of OECD bureaucrats, meaning Western economic bureaucrats.
OCDs?
Yeah. That was called the Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive.
Oh, God.
Who in the world thinks up these titles?
Yeah, right.
Imposing unnecessary compliance costs that would have to be passed on to American investors and consumers. The new climate disclosure rules are unrelated to the economic success of companies and their shareholders. He said the U.S. won't stand for rules that hurt investors without offering any social or economic or environmental benefits. I was reading
Explain this, please.
Well, I was reading about Britain, and the British economy has tanked recently, despite having many, many advantages. And it's in part because they will not let Britain use North Sea oil because they don't want their oil to be oil anymore. And as a result, they want renewable resources. And as a result, Britons have to pay vastly more for electric power, vastly more for heat, and they are not able to get their economy moving again. And the EU is imposing these burdensome restrictions and rules because they are so hip on climate change and trying to stop it that they ultimately put these companies in straitjackets. And what Trump is doing is really telling them, you've got to get moving. Generally, what Trump is saying to Europe is, we're not going to wait for you. We're going to blast ahead with America. We're going to move ahead.
Wait for you with what?
We're not going to sit around and wait for you to catch up.
Right.
You need to catch up. And he's talking about how the U.S. is leading in innovation, is benefiting from the brain drain of people leaving the continent, and he's basically saying that the United States is not going to stand around and wait for Europe to go. We're going to move up on our own, and this trend to crack down on European Union regulations is part of that. The other part of it is the other story that Liz was talking about in the news about Google. Our courts are essentially telling our most productive and good companies like Google that are really taking over their fields, dominating them, doing a very good job of servicing them, and helping all of us are suddenly the object of antitrust lawsuits.
Yeah.
And they have to worry about becoming too big and becoming too powerful. And I think the hell with that. And we shouldn't go around persecuting our own companies. And that, I think, has been a big part of what Trump is doing. And now he's taking that to the courts, and he's taking that to the European Union as well.
I don't know if he's literally doing this, but if you build up other companies to compete with Google, you don't put regulations on Google. You try to find other companies that will compete and be just as good.
Yeah, but I think the whole thesis of antitrust regulation has ultimately been to try to cripple American companies in the name of ensuring competition and basically holding American companies back and hurting American jobs.
The first time I heard of this was, I think, AT&T, right? Way back in the 80s, I think. I don't even know.
Well, except that was an example of antitrust action that really helped. The AT&T was blocking the Internet, and because you didn't have a sound when you touched the key,
right?
They couldn't send data. And that was deliberate by AT&T
really?
Because they wanted to preserve the phone service. I know about this because Eileen and I worked on a report on this for Bess Meyerson when she was consumer director.
Right. Didn't Bess Meyerson
introduce us? Yeah.
You guys?
It was a romantic opening.
Eileen must hate her now. No, I'm kidding.
But the point is that back then, in that instance, antitrust regulation was holding back economic development. But here you're talking about American companies. Nobody could argue that Google is slowing the growth of the American economy, or that Google is stopping companies from getting ahead. Right. Google is racing to the fore,
right,
with artificial intelligence and everything else, and they should not be held up. And what Trump is really doing is dismantling the antitrust operations in the Justice Department and trying to stop the courts from doing that and trying to stop the Europeans from doing it because he likes American companies.
This is a balancing act
to move ahead.
For him to do this. He's got to really figure out what's right and wrong with this, how to break that up or not break it up. And
he settles for figuring out what's good for America and what's not.
Right.
And that standard is so permeates what he's doing. There's a new thing. Trump's economic team is weighing a plan to spur the construction of factories and other infrastructure in a bid to jumpstart the American manufacturing sector. Under the plan, the administration would use the money from a $550 billion investment fund established as part of the trade deal with Japan to invest in the development of semiconductors, pharmaceuticals, critical minerals, energy, ships, and quantum computing. Some of the projects would be granted preferential treatment from the government, including expedited regulatory review. Trump's right. He's gotten huge investments from other countries in American manufacturing, and the trade deals have included gigantic payments. In Japan's case, almost $1 trillion of Japanese investment in American business.
Wait. Really? $1 trillion?
Yeah. Wow. From Japan, from the EU, gigantic deals.
Wow.
And I think that, and what he's doing now is targeting that to boost U.S. manufacturing. And I think it's a very important thing.
Yeah, and he's got this gold entry card. Goes hand in hand with that, right? Trump launched an immigration gold card and announced a $100,000 fee for H-1B visa applicants with executive orders he signed in the Oval Office. He said the orders will reduce our taxes greatly and hopefully bring some great people into our country. Foreigners eligible for permanent resident status and interest in the gold card will pay an unspecified, non-refundable processing fee, undergo comprehensive vetting by the Department of Homeland Security, and pay $1 million contribution to receive expedited U.S. residency. Those selected for inclusion in the program will receive EB-1 or EB-2 visas as determined by the background review. All visas, including the gold card, are revocable based on national security risks and other criminal activity. A corporate gold card is available for $2 million per worker for corporations to sponsor employees. Businesses can switch out the individual sponsored by the card after respective security reviews are complete.
So what Trump has done is he's turned off one spigot and turned on the other spigot.
Right.
the spigot about illegal immigrants coming to the United States, taking jobs away from Americans, undercutting wages, being willing to work for nothing. He's closing that spigot.
Unbelievable.
But then he's opening the other spigot, which is for people with talents and skills and money to invest coming into the United States and strengthening our country and making it great.
The Trump Platinum cards, which have not been released, will be available for $5 million donation. He's calling it donation to it. I like that. Plus processing fee after security vetting is complete, and will provide cardholders with 270 days of annual visitation to the United States with no taxes due on non-U.S. income.
That's key. Telling people they can come into the United States and not pay taxes on the income they did not earn in the United States is key. That's an issue that we've talked to Scott about.
Absolutely. The application window is open for the Platinum Card, and applicants will be, processed as they are received. Howard Lutnick, Secretary of Commerce, said the program will prove successful because it's focusing on specialized workers, and that's important, is specialized workers, and expects the system to bring in more than $100 billion in revenue. So that specialized workers, and if you're going to plop down $5 million, $1 million, whatever this number is, and I don't know if this, you got to have the right people that you're, sponsoring, for companies,
and it's the opposite of what we've been doing. We've been letting in, the Statue of Liberty, the poor, the huddled masses, and all that,
and sucking us dry.
And Trump is saying, but let in the people who are going to create jobs, to give to those people,
like Theodore Roosevelt said. Bring the right people in, but. I read this, and when I was going over the notes, who's got that kind of money to send in people? $5 million, $1 million.
Lots of people.
Really?
Have you ever been to Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, no.
Dubai?
And I'm not going. Or Scott loves it. Our boy Scott.
And
no, but really, they have like $100 million per person. I mean, what was it? $1 million?
$1 million per person.
$1 million
and $5 million per person for
they got
certain
that
privileges.
kind of. I love it. All right, continue.
There's been a really, really interesting move in the country of Colombia. One of the most interesting changes in the treatment of drug money and guerrillas. Colombia, the country, had this huge civil war that still is going on, where FARC, the communist drug dealing...
Watch your language, Dick.
FARC, the communist drug dealing crowd, were trying to overthrow the government. And it resulted in a civil war that lasted for over decades, and hundreds of thousands were killed. In the course of settling that civil war, Colombia set up a peace tribunal, which was able to issue sentences for war crimes committed during decades of internal conflict. And now the Peace Tribunal has found 7 former leaders of the FARC guilty of imposing policies that led to the kidnapping of 21,000 people.
Wow.
The court said the rebel group kidnapped civilians for ransom to finance its operations, while also depriving soldiers and politicians of their liberty in hopes of exchanging them for imprisoned rebels. What Uribe, the president of Colombia, did that was just terrific is he said, okay, I will pay the bodyguards of these drug guys to kill them. And
pay them more than they would.
More than they get in pay.
Like if they're getting $100,000, I'm going to give you $400,000.
Yeah, and you bring them in dead or alive.
Right.
And it doesn't matter to me. You'll still get the money.
That's so awesome.
So what this court is doing is now saying that for the next 8 years, former rebel leaders must work on projects to find the bodies of missing people and to remove landmines from rural areas.
I like that.
The way they used to do it was just say,
run,
walk. Yeah. They'll also have to engage in symbolic acts of reparation with their victims. To ensure compliance, the 7 leaders convicted will follow a strict schedule and have their movements monitored by ankle bracelets. But the victims' advocates are saying this doesn't do enough to compensate the victims. It's a voice that recognizes that they went through unjustifiable and inhumane conduct. So this is a new approach that's been praised by legal scholars who've argued that the tribunal helped to document and uncover the grisly details of Colombia's civil war, but it's also been criticized by Colombians who'd like to see harsher penalties for the perpetrators of war crimes. When we come back, we'll talk about how TikTok is going to become available again, stay available in the United States, and under a deal that Trump and China have cooked up.
When we come back.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group.
So,
during the campaign of 2024, Trump began to realize the power of TikTok, the social media outlet. And he, as he campaigned around the country, young people in particular were telling him that they got their information from TikTok. And Facebook had all the old people, but the young people were all on TikTok.
right.
And the problem was that China controlled TikTok, and they would use it to bias the news media.
So Trump and the leader Xi Jinping approved a preliminary agreement for a group of investors to take control of TikTok's U.S. operations, setting the stage for further negotiations while the two sides continue hammering out details. Under the framework, U.S. investors would take control of the video sharing app through a new entity that would operate algorithms using technology licensed from TikTok parent ByteDance, a structural designed to alleviate national security concerns associated with millions of Americans using the platform controlled by the Chinese firm. I just completed a very productive call with President Xi of China. We made progress. This is Trump, obviously. We made progress on many very important issues, including trade, fentanyl, the need to bring the war between Russia and Ukraine to an end, and the approval of the TikTok deal. That's what Trump said. Trump said he and Xi agreed to meet at the Asian Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in South Korea this fall that would travel to China early next year, and Xi would reciprocate that Trump would travel to China early next year, and Xi would reciprocate by coming to the U.S.
Under the arrangement, a consortium of new TikTok investors and existing backers would together own roughly 80% of TikTok, with ByteDance's ownership dropping below 20% to comply with the U.S. law passed last year. A group of new investors, including private equity firm Silver Lake and cloud computing firm Oracle, would own about half the company, while existing ones in ByteDance, including the Susquehanna International.
Wait, isn't that the Susquehanna Hat Company? Come on, that's from, you wouldn't even know, it's from Abbott and Costello.
Most of the new investors in the consortium have been finalized, according to people familiar with the letter. The government is expected to receive a multi-billion-dollar fee for investors, the latest in a string of lucrative government deals with the private sector.
That's billion, would it be?
Yeah.
Wow.
The deal will also include several Trump loyalists like Larry Ellison, Oracle's co-founder. The company would continue to handle TikTok's U.S. user data in addition to investing through the consortium. So basically, Trump has told China, you can continue to operate TikTok in the U.S., but you have to have an American company doing it, like Oracle. And you can't any longer harvest the information you're getting by having people use TikTok for your own political and economic purposes.
Good.
Now, the details of that deal have not been finalized yet. They're going to meet and discuss it. And generally with China, they issue optimistic stuff saying, oh, we've solved this problem. Mm-hmm. And then you find the details don't do it.
Right.
And Trump has then had to cancel the deal This has happened on trade many times and walked those deals back. So I'm a little suspicious that that's going to happen here.
All right. So you got 16, Dick. Census reveals Trump raised income much more than the Biden and Obama's.
Yeah. The Census Bureau issued data that showed income across all demographics rose more under Trump's first term than during Biden's term in office, while Trump was also more effective in pulling Americans out of poverty. So the Census Bureau compared how did Trump do in his 4 years of office compared to how Biden did in his 4 years of office. From 2020, the last full year of Trump's first presidency, to 2024, the last full years of Biden's term. Under Biden, median income across all demographics rose by $2,100. But under Trump, they've gone up by $62,000. Under Biden, incomes rose by 2.6%. Under Trump, they've rose by 8.2%. What's more, new median earnings among women decreased by 6% from the final year of Trump's year to Biden's final year. So the women had a 6% drop in their income under Biden, and men and the national average had a 15% increase. So Hispanic Americans and Asians saw the median income growth of 6.7% under Biden, down from 9.2% under Trump. Moreover, Trump helped more Americans out of poverty in his first term than Biden did when he was in office. In Trump's first term, 3 million Americans were lifted out of poverty, compared to 1.6 million Americans in the Biden years. Compared to Joe Biden, President Trump's aggressive pro-growth agenda actually lifted more Americans out of poverty, and incomes rose more across all demographics. Despite the Democrats' empty rhetoric, the president's proven policies uplifted all Americans in his first term, and he's doing it again.
Good. That's good. This is more important. Kirk Group describes death threats against Charlie. Turning Point USA Chief Operating Officer Tyler Bowyer confirmed just how, Tyler Bowyer confirmed just how many death threats the group faced after a chilling video resurfaced of Charlie Kirk's talking about his greatest fear and the member of Congress he was speaking to at the time, which is almost too unbelievable to realize.
Do we have that statement that Roxana talked about?
I'm going to do that. You mean her what she wrote?
Prophecy, yeah.
I'm gonna get that after we do the story. Give me a second, all right? On Thursday, Bauer responded to a throwback video label from this earlier this year, late. I really hate writing, when he said the late Charlie Kirk. You know, he said, I really hate describing him like that already. The Charlie, talking about his fear about what happened when, God forbid, someone on the right gets shot or even killed. Charlie said this. What is almost more unbelievable than the words that he speaks next is when you realize that the screen behind him shows him talking to his senator and all the people in the places that he was speaking to. The guy was a Republican Senator, Mike Lee from Utah. Charlie warned earlier this year that his greatest fear was someone getting shot and killed. He said the left was creating an atmosphere that could lead to one of us getting shot or killed. Now, Roxana wrote this beautiful thing, and I have to play it for you. So here it goes. You ready there, Lux? All right, man, do it.
Reading these words, I immediately visioned it was a prophecy spoken, that Charlie innately knew an action of evil was in preparation to be carried out soon. We know in definition a prophecy is a divinely inspired declaration, a prediction of the future. In Scripture, prophecy has been seen as evidence of the divine, God's word working through a religious believer, a prophet. There is no doubt that Charlie was this religious leader, bringing Christ back into conversation, awakening hearts sleeping. In my own heart, I believe he knew why he had made so many preparations for Erica, promises to be kept, to continue God's message. It was never about Charlie himself. He made that clear. It was always about Jesus. For Charlie Kirk didn't teach for personal glory, but to bring the word of God to those lost, searching, confused in these times of conflict. My last thoughts on this segment is from Psalm 62, 1 through 2. My soul finds rest in God alone. My salvation comes from him. He alone is my rock and my salvation. He is my fortress. I will never be shaken. Amen. Yes, Charlie, your spirit, your message is as steadfast as when you were here in the physical world. Your light still guiding us forever, our lighthouse, evermore.
Wow.
So Kirk said, my fear, Senator Lee, talking to the senator from Utah, is that there will be death spread by the left among those of us who are working to keep peace. Let's stay in prayer, and I hope that I'm wrong. But someone is going to get shot the same way House Minority Leader Stephen Scalise got shot, and God forbid killed. Kirk said the left is creating a pressure cooker with so many of their rank-and-file paramilitary troops. That very well might result in one of us getting shot or killed. God forbid that happens.
We're getting death threats every single day here on the Charlie Kirk Show. Bauer not only reshared the post confirming it was real, but he also responded to the amount of threats that we were facing. We received thousands and thousands of death threats, he said. Charlie never complained about them or lived in fear. Our security detail working with authorities has thwarted dozens of serious threats, but he would never give up, he added. He stared evil in the eye and tried to win over them. And I would just like to thank Roxana for that beautiful,
it's beautiful
message. Absolutely.
We have to realize what the left did here. They were losing their supporters. The Hispanics and blacks were leaving and still are leaving the Democratic Party. And as their supporters moved away, they had to replace them. And they turned to the trans community to replace them. And they did that by warning the trans community. They're coming for you. They're fascists. They're going to lock you up. They're going to stop you from exercising your sexual freedom.
Wow.
And he scared the hell out of them. The left did.
No pun intended, but it was a total transition to those people. No pun, seriously.
And the left's goal was to change the trans community from a peaceful group of people who were trying to live their lives into a hit squad.
Wow.
That could be used to assassinate and kill.
Divide and conquer
people on
type of thing?
No, worse than that. Incite to murder.
Incite to murder, not divide and conquer. Wow.
That's right. And I've been working recently on a chapter about this. The same thing happened to Socrates, and the same thing happened to Jesus Christ.
Sure.
In each case, a group of citizens, in the case of Socrates, the Greek jury, and in the case of Christ, the disciples, got information that they were under attack, and the goal was by the Roman authorities and by the Greek authorities and by the left of the Democrats to scare the trans community into becoming their hit squad, into moving against people like Charlie Kirk.
If you don't stand up and fight against them and kill them, they're going to take you over.
They're fascists. That's why the guy who killed Kirk wrote on one of the bullets, "This is for you, fascists. Catch the bullet."
Yeah,
and the whole goal here of the left was to replace the people they lost when the Democratic Party lost Black and Latino voters with trans voters. And the way to do that was to get the trans voters riled up and telling them your life is under threat. The fascists are coming for you. They're going to close you down. You got to take action now. and you got to go after him. You got
Well,
to
look at
defend
Cardinal Dolan compared Charlie. Who did he compare him to? What apostle?
Paul.
Was it Paul? Right.
Yeah, and I think that the tactics that the left used to inflame the trans community to kill Charlie Kirk are very similar to the tactics the ancient Greek religious leaders used to inflame people to kill Socrates, and the Pharisees and the Romans used to inflame people to kill Jesus Christ.
When somebody can touch so many hearts and they can't combat him, they can't argue him,
They can kill him. Yeah.
Horrible.
And we saw that in Jesus' crucifixion, in Socrates being poisoned with hemlock, and in Charlie Kirk being shot. The same thing happening over and over again.
But, I don't think we're scared. I think we're ready to just, at least Erica is, his wife, and so many people are going to stand up, and no one's going to be a Charlie. Nobody is going to be him. And maybe there will be someone as brilliant as him and with his recall and knowledge, but there's going to be enough people doing it that this is not going to end. What did Erica say? You created 1,000 Charlies. I think that's what she said in her speech the next day, So there's martyrdom. How do you say it? Martyrdom. Here.
Charlie is attracting more people in death than he ever did in life.
I said that. I said
Cardinal Dolan was saying, I didn't know who this guy was.
Right. Now
and
he's
when
watching.
I saw everything going on, I said, God, I got to learn about this guy.
And the way he, I said last week that his spiritual voice is a lot louder than his living voice now. Exactly.
That's right.
And when he debated people, he didn't do it with disrespect. He didn't try to put them down. He didn't do the gotcha thing. And he would thank them. Oh, thank you for arguing with me. Thank you for talking to me. Thanks for the question. Even when it was against him, they would say horrible things to him. And he always kept his cool most of the time, 99.9% of the time. This guy just stood fast. He was he really was a respectful. That's why you see these people that are talking crap about him. Oh, he was a fascist. Crockett. I showed you that thing just now. What's the name?
Yeah.
Crockett, whatever that idiot is. And he's a fascist. And then Ayok, what she said, his rhetoric was inciting violence.
That's the exact opposite.
The exact opposite.
His rhetoric was reasoned and logical and rational.
Right. Calm.
And calm and loving.
Right. And so many people, he turned so many people. I don't know that for a fact. I'd like to know those numbers. How many people, young kids in these colleges said, I'm going that way when they weren't. How much time we got there, Lux? We're ready to roll?
Okay.
All right.
Ready to break. When we come back, a big phenomenon. Cable news is losing a lot of its viewers, cable networks. And instead, candidates are using their own websites to communicate with voters. We'll talk about that when we come back.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group.
And call-ins, 800-848-9222. Please call in. We want to hear from you. 800-848-9222.
On Ukraine, President Trump is gradually inching up to the point where he's going to impose secondary sanctions on Russia. It's not something he wanted to do because it really is huge, and it can cripple the Russian economy. And Trump has been inching up to it and hinting it, and now it's becoming increasingly likely that he will.
Secondary sanctions, other people that are buying oil from Russia, that type of thing?
Yeah, if you buy oil from Russia, we're going to raise the tariffs on you.
Right.
And it's particularly aimed at China and at India. And they are the people that are buying Russian oil. And if nobody buys Russian oil, Russia goes out of business because it's become entirely oil dependent. And Trump, I think, sees that as a vulnerability and is really about to pounce on it.
Good. So what do we got? The cable news?
Well, let's go to some calls here. Elaine from
Wayne, New Jersey. Hi, Elaine.
Hi. Mickey Sherrill's running for governor of New Jersey.
Right.
She endorsed Mamdani, the communist. That alone should disqualify her.
Right.
Yeah.
Her views are very radical. She's for sanctuary cities. She's for open borders. She only wants a job for its perks and to enrich herself, just like Biden enriched himself.
Right. Uh-huh.
And
she masquerades as a moderate. She says
she's awful. I see right through her. I can't stand her.
She says, "I'm not like Mamdani. I'm not like the extreme Democrats."
But then she endorses them.
she endorses Mamdani, and she advocates the same policies.
Like anybody, have Democrats in power, you have corruption.
Always.
And also, she's also guilty of insider trading, like Pelosi. And she's just as bad as Murphy, and probably even worse. And he probably wants her in to continue their corrupt legacy.
I mean, the voters of New Jersey need to take a deep breath and understand what their state has become. You look at Menendez, the senator who went to jail. You look at Corzine. You look at the whole history of tax increases and New Jersey going increasingly into the toilet. The New Jersey's like to say, we're better than New York, and with Mamdani they probably will be. But it's New Jersey voters need really to understand that this is their best chance to free themselves, and they should look very seriously at Jack Ciattarelli, because he is the key to New Jersey freeing itself from these Marxist Democrats.
Absolutely. See, Sandra, Jack Ciattarelli. Sandra, Jack Ciattarelli. All right, who else we got? Thank you, Elaine. We got Gary from North Carolina. Hey, Gary.
Hi.
How you doing?
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yep.
hi, Gary.
We got it.
Okay, good.
You're right.
I'm wondering, Dick, about the 2026 elections and 28, that I don't think that the Republicans have done much to make election security from mail-in fraud. I don't know if you're familiar with the organization Omega number 4 America.
Yeah.
But you do. Okay.
Well,
why isn't anybody adopting that, Dick?
Well, I think that.
Tell me about it, Dick, because I don't know about that.
Yeah, go ahead, Gary.
Yeah.
So they're saying that with their technology, fractal technology, that they can pinpoint all the people or all the residents that get mail-in ballots. Like some of them are grocery stores,
right?
Empty lots, Woolworths,
post office boxes.
Really?
Yeah. I think that Trump's approach has been a different one. Instead of dealing with this on a supply side basis, he's dealing with it really on a demand side basis by passing laws requiring voter ID and saying that if you can vote by mail, you gotta present the last 4 digits of your social security number on the ballot, and that will stop the voter fraud right away, because these fictitious people won't be able to do that. And I think that he's been very effective in this, and I think you're going to see this become more and more the standard practice.
What do we have, about 25, 30 states already doing this? Is it that the number?
29, I think.
Yeah.
And the rest need to. Most of the swing states don't.
And that's what's important.
Yeah.
There you go.
And you need to, in Michigan and North Carolina, you need to require voter ID in order to vote. And when it's mail-in, it should be the last 4 digits of their social security number. And people aren't able to fake that. And we can really use that to make sure the election is honest and fair. I think Trump is getting around to that, and I think we can expect some very big action on that, particularly as the new congressional election approaches. And I think that we are not going to be in a position where we're going to lose this election because of mail-in voting and fraud. Trump is really on that case and really understands it. Let's
Beautiful.
go to Richard on Long Island.
Hey, Richard.
Guys, listen. Along with what the lady from Florida was trying to say, shortly the COLA for Social Security should be announced in October, and it'll be like 2.5%. I'd like to see a bonus COLA coming out of the tariff money of at least an additional 1 to 1.5%.
Yeah,
and maybe Trump could spring it next year for the 26 elections.
Yep. I think that's important. I think that's a good idea. I hadn't thought about linking it to the cost of living increases, the so-called COLAs, but that's a very good thought. And the tariff revenues give him the capacity to do that. And it's very important to do that. I think you're going to see a major breakthrough in that area, just along the lines of what you want. I think you'll be very happy with the programs coming out, Richard. Let's go to Joe in Staten Island. Hi, Joe.
Yeah, how you doing, Dick and Doug?
Hey,
I love your show.
Thank you.
America has a very serious problem. It's our education system, our indoctrinating centers to corrupt our kids towards Marxism, communism, and all that stuff, and it's not being addressed. I have what I believe is a very simple, almost like a silver bullet, of how to deal with this and to make it slowly but assuredly collapse. And it's something that the president can do all by himself by an executive order. He puts an executive order. Every single college that receives any money from the federal government must allow the students to record what the professors say.
Mm-hmm.
Ah,
it's an interesting idea. That's a new
very
idea.
Interesting.
Never thought about that.
Wow.
I didn't I didn't realize they're borrowing that. But yeah,
I like that.
I like that a lot.
Because we should just.
I will.
that.
I promise you, I'll mention that to Trump.
Absolutely. He's going to like it too.
Yeah, that's a hell of a good idea.
Hey, listen, if I like it, he usually likes it.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Thank you. Who was that, Joe? Whatever. Listen. Thank you, Joe. Listen. Judith is telling me that Mondami is butting up with Antifa. And she said Mondami's new police force, Antifa. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She said that there's some stuff going on where he's...
Yeah, well, he's going that way anyway.
Wow, could you imagine? All right, so what do we got? Scott from Wayne, New Jersey. How you doing, Scott?
How you doing, guys? It's Mike. I enjoy your show. I just want to think about Murphy just passed a law or whatever in New Jersey. If you homeschool your children, you're required to, for the DEI trans inclusion, even if you homeschool your kids, you made it that you're required to bring that into homeschool, and you need to show proof of that you're teaching your kids about, DEI inclusion. Also,
I don't get that. Wait a minute. If you're not black and you're not a minority and you're homeschooling your kid, how do you bring DEI into it? I don't get it.
That's what Murphy wanted to do. I think it was some Bill 24, whatever. They just did it in 2024. And also, too, I went to my school board meeting in town because they took Christmas off the calendar in school.
No way.
Yes, and I spoke to Greg Kelly about this. I've been trying to do this in my town. So right before the board, I said my piece, and there was people there from India. They wanted to bring Diwali Day into the holiday calendar. I said, well, what happened to the Judeo-Christian values of the United States of America, and how come you took Christmas off and now you want these people? I'm sure it's a beautiful religion. Whatever.
Yeah, right.
They shouldn't be able to do this. We have precedence over anybody with our Judeo-Christian values, and they didn't know what to say. But I'm going to the next meeting to bring it up as well, because they even put that Eid holiday in the school calendar in May or June or whatever. And they took away Christmas. They took away Veterans Day.
They took away. They'd stop calling it that, but they call it a winter break or something.
Yeah.
Right. But what they're slowly doing, what the parents need to do is stand up and go to these meetings. What they're slowly doing is they're erasing our culture, even in our towns. And if you
cancel
Google
culture.
Yes. I mean, if you look at it, many towns are doing this. There's no Christmas on the calendar. And they're saying, well, it never was. I graduated in 1980 in this town in Wayne, and it sure as heck was.
That's
it
right.
was Christmas/holiday break. And now they did away with the name altogether, so there's no Christmas at all.
Yeah.
Christmas at all. And I need to reiterate one thing. I'll let you gentlemen go. The last election for governor in New Jersey, only 40.5% of registered Republicans bothered to vote.
Wow.
We can do this. We can do this right now with Chitterelli if we all get off our lazy butts
Right.
and vote. We got to vote.
Thank you, Mike.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. And
Absolutely.
thank you for telling us about Murphy's Law.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Hello, Dick Morris.
Hello, welcome back to the Dick Morris Show with Doug DePiro, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group.
And let me give out the call-in numbers, 800-848-9222. We have great callers, don't we? 800-848-9222.
There's been a big shift in where people
Adam
are getting
Schiff?
their news. Yeah, Adam Schiff for brains.
Ooh.
Presidential candidates like AOC or even Ted Cruz are closing in on audiences that rival or surpass cable primetime viewership for individual networks. What they're doing is putting out their own websites, their own news sources. And
Kind of like Trump did in the first
Trump did.
thing.
That's
yeah.
right. Exactly. And he still does. with
Yeah,
Truth
but he
Social.
really started it, though.
Yeah.
You know, with the fake news, they just weren't nice to him, and he just went on, what did he open? The Truth Social or something?
Truth Social,
Yeah, right.
yeah. Missouri Senator Josh Hawley is racking up millions of views.
Like him.
Vivek Ramaswamy, a former 24 presidential candidate who's running for governor of Ohio, has 813 subscribers on his site. The Democrats are trying to do it too. Pete Buttigieg's channel started this year with just 28,000 subscribers, now has 177,000, having generated nearly 10 million views and accumulated $500,000 of hours of viewing time. So taken together, it signals the arrival of a fast-changing attention economy that has scrambled what effective political communication looks like. The 2028 cycle has the potential to be the first post-cable TV election, heralding the dawn of a post-literate era in which technology fully displaces reading and consumption of news from traditional outlets. The problem is that what this means is that you're only going to hear from the choir. You're only going to hear from your point of view. And the cross-pollination of getting other points of view, just as Charlie Kirk did, is going to increasingly suffer.
No, hold on. This is basically social media, right?
Yeah.
It's basically so. There's always people that are going to come on and say, "Oh, no way, I don't believe you," or "You're lying," and then you have to come back. Yes, no, I mean,
yes, but the difference is that these websites are sponsored by the candidates themselves, so they're really a form of political advertising dressed up as news coverage. So it comes across to the viewer as Ted Cruz, or on the right, AOC.
we just saw Ted Cruz
AOC,
a couple days ago.
AOC talking about something in the news, but in fact, it's their own views, and it's a trend that really is becoming significant.
Yeah, okay, I kind of see it, but people still can go on their sites. If I think I'm right about that. They can go on and go back and forth. Are they? Will they? Can they stop people from commenting?
No, you don't stop them. But what you do is to understand that you need more inputs. For those who say the media is left wing, which it obviously is, and then say, who should we listen to? Who should we believe? And the answer is everybody. The answer is you open your mind and you you read everything.
Like Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, you read everything, you watch everything, and you understand that, you're not going to be spoon-fed information from a source that's reliable. Walter Cronkite is gone.
You never knew with that guy where he's...
Like Joe DiMaggio. The nation turns its lonely heart to you.
Joltin' Joe.
Yeah, but there is no replacement for that. The era when you could just rely on one authority to give you your news is just over. And increasingly, it's the thing you rely upon is everybody.
The thing that I was talking to Curtis about, I asked him, how do you get to the left? How do you get your news out to people? We have an audience, we're preaching to the choir, basically.
Yeah.
How do you get out to the
our
left?
Choir is watching everybody else. Our choir, I'm sure, is in touch with many of the
we have intelligent
left organs.
Listeners.
Yeah.
I was going to say viewers. Anyway, Trump wants the air base Bagram back. Trump, speaking to reporters on Thursday during a trip to London, said, "We want that base back," and cited what he called its strategic location near China. "It's an hour away from where China makes its nuclear weapons," Trump said. "The sprawling airfield was the main base for American forces in Afghanistan during the 2 decades of war that followed September 11th attacks in New York and Washington." Trump, who has previously said he wants the United States to acquire territories and sites ranging from Panama Canal, where we just flew in from last night, and Greenland, has appeared focused on Bagram for years. He hinted on Thursday that the U.S. could acquire the base with some kind of Taliban consent. That's what I want to ask you about. But it was unclear what form such an agreement might take. It would be a remarkable turnaround for the Taliban, which fought to expel U.S. troops and retake the country from U.S. Tell me about why they would do that.
We could pay for it. And the Taliban is desperate for revenues, and we could use that.
We give them $1.80 on the corner,
just like we pay for Guantanamo.
Mm-hmm.
And we pay for Guantanamo because of a long-held treaty. But the capacity to buy that stuff is very good and very real.
How much you think they're going to want?
Oh, a lot.
Little bastards.
A lot. But Donald Trump's a pretty good deal man.
The art of the deal, man. He always said you got to be able to walk away from it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I use that all my life with motorcycles and cars. I walk away from the deal. Trump is absolutely me. So, Dick, it's an honor to be here with you. And I want to thank once again Roxana. Amazing what she writes. It's just so...
I love that testament on Charlie Kirk and prophecy.
Yeah,
prophecy being the word of God.
She really is amazing.
Yeah.
I can't get over how brilliant, So thank you, Dick Morris. I really...
Well, as Roxana said, bye-bye.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that's right. We got to say, I forgot.
Bye-bye. Okay, bye-bye.
No. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
No. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to The Dick Morris Show. You can hear The Dick Morris Show Sundays at noon. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?